Hi everyone, I'm Bill V, and today we're going to talk about presenting data science topics. So, we're covering this non-technical topic because it will probably happen to you at some point in your career where you have to present. You may have to present for stakeholders, you might have to present at an academic conference, or you might even have to present for a potential employer. A potential employer might say, hey, create a presentation and present to us as part of the employment process. We're going to go over knowing your audience, which sounds like a given, but sometimes it's completely missed. We're going to go over stage fright and what to do with it if you think you might have it, or butterflies, or that sort of thing. We'll also go over how to prepare your deck and what your deck might look like if you have a deck. Sometimes you might not have that situation where you have a deck, but in this case, we'll just talk about it anyway. Okay, so knowing your audience, number one, knowing your audience. This is again, it sounds like a given, but it's very important that you find out what your audience is. For example, a couple of years ago, I attended a Google developer conference. And as you can imagine, it was very, very technical crowd. Everyone there was wanted to learn to code something new and exciting. I think it was back in 2017, so TensorFlow was a year and a half years old, and we're all very excited to learn to code. And a sponsor came out to speak about how important AI was, and it was kind of very business based. And she was kind of losing us. I could see some people in the audience crossing their arms and shaking their heads. It was just terrible. Um, this would be an instance where if this individual found out what the audience was like prior to the conference, she might have been able to adapt the speech in that instance. Same thing happened to me, something similar, where I was presenting to my division and we had some non technical individuals on that call. And my boss at that time, my supervisor at that time, mentioned, "Hey, Bill, you're giving the audience too much credit." I was speaking about neural networks, artificial neural networks, and there's people that have no idea what those are. So I really had to work it out. And that was between that and that prior conference that I mentioned, putting those two together, I had a better understanding. Ask what your audience will be like, get a feel for what your audience will be like. If needed, get people to help you on the outside to make sure you're presenting appropriately, because in your head you might think that you're presenting appropriately, but some people outside, objective opinions, might let you know, hey, that doesn't seem right for this audience, or I don't follow. Or you might get a more technical person who says, hey, this, you might be insulting the crowd with this. So that's what I'm trying to say with that. Understand your audience, ask other people. Before I go on to number two, make sure you hit that like button right now. Thank you. So number two would be stage fright. We're going to talk about stage fright and how to deal with butterflies. So the way I suggest is trying to pull something up from your past or even someone else's past to help you. And I can explain what I mean by this. So what I pull from is back when I did taekwondo, like 25 years ago. It was a long time ago. And I used to do tournaments, and sometimes I would do forms, and sometimes I would make it to the grand championships of those forms and have hundreds of people watching me do my form. And I was the only one performing in front of hundreds of people. And sometimes it would get so quiet that people probably could hear me breathe as I was doing my form. You could probably hear a pin drop as well. Um, I wasn't scared. I was focused, and that's where I try to get. I have a friend of mine who's a veteran, and when he feels nervous about going into a meeting or doing a speech in front of a crowd, he thinks back to when he was in war and getting shot at. So, as you can probably imagine, getting shot at is much scarier than actually doing a speech. And going to a rough meeting. Number three would be preparing a deck. If you're able to prepare a deck, some of my tips about that. I often think back to an article I read from Guy Kawasaki, and I have a link to that below. That was very helpful to me. Basically, the gist of that is keeping the fonts large and your deck small, no longer than it has to be. A personal rule of mine is do not read the words on the deck. Do not read that. To me, that sort of means that you don't know your topic if you have to read your deck. I guess here and there it's okay to read a little bit, but don't read paragraphs of words from your deck. And also, if you're doing a deck and adding mathematical formulas, maybe something you've been working on, or an older formula, try to spell out what the formula means. If you have letter variables in the formulas, make sure you state what those are, so if people get the copy of the deck later, it helps remind them what those signify. In my decks, I also like to add plenty of pictures. As they say, pictures speak 1,000 words. I really like to add many pictures, less words. Dry run the topic before doing it, before actually doing it in front of an audience, if possible. Sometimes you don't get that chance. Just know your topic and don't let that deck pull you through it. That deck is a supplement. So those are my 3 tips. If you have any more suggestions, please add them below in the comments section. It could help someone else out. If you have any questions for me, add those below as well. And make sure you hit the like button and subscribe. Thank you very much.